Hello, Community Action. Good afternoon and welcome, good morning, and welcome to our webinar event, Water and Energy Programs Amidst COVID-19, Spotlight on Arizona. I am Catherine Maddox, Project Director for Energy Partnerships here at the National Community Action Partnership, and we are joined by an esteemed panel today who I'm excited that is here with us today. Just a few technical notes before we get started. This webinar will be recorded and made available to you both through a follow-up email as well as being recorded and posted on our website. Please note that you will be muted for this presentation, and should you need to be able to hear us, and you should be able to hear us out of your computer speakers. If you lose audio at any time during the presentation, just click the Communicate tab at the top, and you should be able to select Audio Broadcast to reboot your audio. If you continue to have audio issues, you can also call into this session using the teleconference number located at the bottom of your confirmation email or in the audio and video tab at the top. Please send us any questions you may have throughout the presentation. We'll look to intersperse those or have them at the end, depending on as time allows. So just to share a little bit here at the top before we pass it over to our presenters. Just a note about our project here at the National CAP. We are the Weatherization Leverage Partnerships Project. We are funded by the Department of Energy to offer training and assistance to the WAP network in designing private partnerships and programs that leverage the WAP. So please reach out to us. We'd love to talk further with you one-on-one, and some of the resources and tools we can share with you, we can make sure to connect you depending on what it is you're looking into. We can support your creating or improving those local and private partnerships. We can help facilitate connections to experienced peers, assist in data collection, messaging, helping get things off the ground. We can share advocacy and research resources, tools and templates. We have our trainings and webinars like we have here. So please use us. We're available and happy to assist you there with all the great work you're doing at the local level. And with that, let me introduce our speakers for today. We have Cynthia Zwick. She served as Executive Director of Wildfire Igniting Community Action to End Poverty in Arizona since 2003. Wildfire is a nonprofit organization that works to stop poverty before it starts by advocating for quality jobs statewide, creating access to a foundation of financial security, and ensuring the security and sustainability of supportive systems. Wildfire is the State Association for Community Action Agencies and Advocates on behalf of the low-income community throughout Arizona, working with community partners throughout the state to educate the community about issues related to poverty, injustice, and oppression, improve public policy, and ensure low-income families have access to the tools needed to become financially stable and to thrive. Cynthia leads a small and mighty team that works to build strong, supportive, and sustainable communities. They intervene in utility rate cases, provide training and technical assistance to community action agency staff and boards. They conduct SNAP outreach and enrollment, support the Arizona Self-Help website, and administer the first Warm Weather Fuel Fund, the Home Energy Assistance Fund, to help families with utility bills and weatherization. Most recently, they have begun the development of an online technical solution that will allow efficient and dignified access to utility and rental assistance, which we'll be hearing about today. Next, we have Mary Lou Rosales. She is an Eloy native. Mary Lou attended Eloy Elementary Schools and Santa Cruz Valley Union High School, later attending the University of Arizona and Central Arizona College. Her mantra is that if you try hard enough, there is a solution for every problem. I like that mantra, Mary Lou. Her service to the community includes past president and current board member of Wildfire, formerly Arizona Community Action Association, past president and current executive board member of Penal Hispanic Council, past president, founding member, and current board member of Latino Family Initiative, past president and current board member of Penal Gila Council for Senior Citizens, board member of Santa Cruz Valley Food Bank, past board member of Penal Gila Area Agency on Aging and Seeds of Hope, Against Abuse, Inc., and served on the State Joint Legislative Committee on Affordable Housing and the Governor's Affordable Housing Task Force. She's also a past member of the Arizona Advisory Council on Hunger. Without a doubt, her heart is in Eloy. She has been with the Community Action Human Resources Agency for 40 years, 36 of those as the executive director. Shreyas Shah is a seasoned executive with a breadth of experience across population health, product development, and information technology. Shreyas is currently the head of growth at Prefix Health, where he leads the business development and customer success teams focusing on consumer engagement and eligibility determination for vulnerable populations. Prior, Shreyas led platform solutions at Aprovita, where he was responsible for the strategic direction of program platform solutions and product management across value-based contracting and quality improvement solutions. Prior to his work at Aprovita, he has had multiple executive roles at Press Ganey, Change Healthcare, Rise Health, McKesson, Pepsi Company, and Tetra Pak. All right, and with that, can't wait to hear from everybody here today, so I'll pass it over to Cynthia. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Catherine, and thanks to everybody who is joining us today, and thanks to my fellow panelists. Just wanted to kick us off. Catherine, if you could switch to the next screen, that would be great. We are going to share a little bit about what's happening because of COVID here in Arizona. And I know it's a story that's not unlike what's happening across the country and is affecting communities throughout the nation. But we think we're doing a few things a little bit differently, and we want to talk a little bit about that. I do want to mention, and the reason I have this advocacy slide up first is we really view advocacy as not only speaking on behalf of and fighting for those things that we believe in, including fund sources, but we also see it as an investment in our future. And by that, I mean there have been opportunities for us that have come to fruition during this time that we would not have been able to take advantage of had it not been for relationships and our advocacy over the years. And I think I just want to emphasize that I know all of us in community action are engaged in advocacy throughout our communities and throughout our careers. But I do want to just emphasize that don't just see it as a point in time kind of effort, that it really does have an impact as we go forward. It has afforded us, Wildfire in this instance, an opportunity to distribute a significant amount of CARES Act funding through a network that we've developed over a number of years. And so I just can't speak enough about the importance at all levels. So we get involved at the Utility Commission here, the Arizona Corporation Commission, at the legislature. We advocate all the time with our utilities and sometimes against our utilities. We work with state and elected officials on a variety of topics. And then at the moment, we're really advocating on behalf of landlords or working with landlords in order to protect the tenants that are being so desperately affected by this crisis. So that said, one of the programs that we have worked to support over the years and has led to some significant changes during this time is a water program that I'm going to let Mary Lou talk more about, as she is the expert and does administer those funds on behalf of her community. Mary Lou?
Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia, and Catherine, thank you. Did I have the next slide? Wanted to tell you just a little bit about our agency, known as CARA, throughout Pinal County in Arizona. And we are Pinal County. It's a county between Phoenix and Tucson, with about 475,000 in population. It's really growing, the population. Our office is in Eloy, and all the growth is happening out of Eloy. Our time will come. But in Casa Grande, there's a Lucid electric car manufacturer. It already started their building is up and they expect to have cars rolling within months. And then Nikola, a manufacturer of zero-emission heavy trucks, is coming to Coolidge. They've broken ground, but nothing else. And then we have, Eloy does have a lot of private prisons. And so that provides a lot of the jobs here in Eloy and also throughout Pinal County. The agency provides the, I would say, normal community action programs, financial assistance, including, of course, utility assistance, homeless services. Oh, we have our share of homeless in Pinal County, and we have tremendous support for our programs. In fact, in Casa Grande, we opened up what is called a CG Helps Resource Center, and that was with Mayor's Task Force with 23 individuals in the Casa Grande area, and it's grown to be very much an service that is providing services to the homeless. Then, of course, weatherization, minor home repair, food pantry. We have a wonderful food pantry, distribution of senior boxes. We also serve as a fiscal agent for the food pantries throughout Pinal County that have grown probably to 12. We apply for funding for them, bid out the food, and purchase it, and then distribute it to all the food pantries. I know they appreciate it because we do all the work. And with the COVID funding, to us it's a lot of money, maybe to a lot of other agencies, $5 million is not. But we do have a $5 million plus budget this year. Next slide, please. There's been a gap for years in the services that we provide, and that is funding for water payments. And we've seen during the pandemic calls for assistance with water increased by 25%. The funding is scarce, and it's such a needed resource, especially during the pandemic. You know, that depends on water as a basic cleanliness necessity. And it really has worried us, and we've tried to find ways to help. And then although the LIHEAP funding is available to pay water bills, but it's only if a household has an evaporative water cooler. I don't even know if all of you know what a evaporative water cooler is. I remember going to national conferences, and many people have never heard of it. But we still have them, not as many as I would say 10 years ago, but we still service them. And then with the LIHEAP, we can only pay through the months of May and October, which limits it. But we do have people that we can use it. Next slide, please. And then we have a company, Global Water to the rescue. They have been a tremendous resource. But unfortunately, it's only in two communities in Pinal County, and that is the city of Maricopa and the community of Red Rock. They initially only allowed $250 per household, and they had strict eligibility criteria. It made it very difficult to qualify households that needed water assistance. But after major discussions and calls for change, actually lots of complaints. We did all the complaining, and we called it advocacy. And they heard us. The company did alleviate the criteria. It's been so helpful. The maximum grants now are $350 for water and $350 for sewer customers. And they may be assisted more than once within the parameters, the 350 and other 250. And their guidelines must fall within just one of these, and that is the federal poverty guidelines, that is 300%, the deployed service member or disabled military veteran, furloughed worker, which has come very much in need during this time, and medical hardship. So it's been just one of these, and they're automatically eligible. But staff does have to call the company, because we have to ensure that there's been no history of meter tampering or lock cutting within the last year. It's been a very successful program, and Global Water increases our funding as needed. There was a Friday that there was a customer that called that her water was going to be turned off, and we had exhausted the funding, and so my staff told the customer, and the customer told the Global Water office, who called the main office, and right away we got $15,000 more. So that they're that easy to work with. Next slide, please. And then now COVID funding. We call it a blessing, but in a way it's stressful, because we are receiving the funding, and there's a lot of concern of duplicate assistance, etc. So we're meeting all that criteria. But we are receiving funding for rental assistance, utility, including water, payment, sewer, and trash. And this funding is provided by the City of Eloy, where our office exists, City of Casa Grande, which is one of two of the largest communities in Pinal County, and Pinal County with unincorporated areas. And so it is, we talked about what we would need for the COVID money, and we did mention water payments. And so that is really going to be tremendous help for those especially affected by COVID. We what does help is the City of Phoenix. The City of Eloy owns their own water company, so I will be helping them. But the City of Phoenix will also get COVID money. They also own the water company, and Cynthia will probably let you know. So we're very happy that we have this extra resource. And in the future, we're going to continue to advocate that water should be part of assistance for those that need it throughout Arizona. And I know that wildfire will be front and center, helping us advocate. Next slide. And this part I turn over to Cynthia. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Lou. And thanks for all that you're doing. It's amazing, particularly now. I mean, we all know how important the work that you all do is ongoing. So I wanted to shift a little bit and start talking about kind of what's happening and how we've been pivoting a bit in light of the impact of COVID. And one of those ways, as Mary Lou indicated, is that support for water assistance has become available. And the City of Phoenix designed a program that you're going to see how we're implementing it, but the City of Phoenix designed a program that does allow for the payment of water bills. It also allows for electric and gas bill payments and then rent and mortgage payment. But what we started doing even before COVID began was really understanding that the infrastructure for support and system delivery, benefit delivery, had not really seen any kind of significant investment in a number of years. So what we're seeing now is we've seen this huge surge in need, and families and individuals who have been affected by the pandemic. We've seen a huge influx of resources primarily from the federal government. And we've seen no expansion in a system for delivering those resources. And yet the expectation that we're seeing from elected officials in particular is, we've just given you all this money, the need is great, why haven't you spent it more quickly? Why do you still have money? So there's this sort of healthy sort of competition around the state, I think, to see who can get the money spent. But more importantly, it's how do we really create a system that creates an opportunity for sort of equitable and dignified access in a process that gets frustrating and difficult to navigate for far too many people. So a few years ago, I had the privilege of facilitating, along with Kristen Borns here in Arizona, a process that was begun by the Virginia Piper Charitable Trust that really was looking at how do we create a process that can streamline and or make more efficient the service delivery or the utility assistance benefit, access to those benefits. So we worked with a company out of Portland for a while to do some discovery and really better understand the service delivery model and the system that was in place. And this is the graphic that they came up with to describe how the system works. And when we talk about the description in the words that are to the left of this photo or this picture, these are terms that we received from the service delivery group, from the organizations that were frustrated because their customers couldn't get served. And it was also, there are descriptions based on what the customers themselves who actually had gotten appointments and gotten into the system shared with us. Catherine, next slide, please. So as an organization, as this collaboration, it really was a true coming together of organizations throughout Maricopa County, which is where Phoenix is located. And I'm proud to say that we're expanding this now statewide. But our intent was to come together to build an effective way of delivering utility assistance, information, and aid to clients in order to better help people in a crisis situation, reduce heat-related deaths, which is a huge issue here, and realize efficiencies in the ecosystem. And I think it's important to mention here that we understand that having access to information sometimes is just as important as having access to some of the assistance. Next slide, please, Catherine. So the goals that the collaborative prioritized over time were to ensure that the most vulnerable population receives the critical help that they need, get clients help when they need it, make it easier for clients to apply for utility assistance, and ultimately it was give clients more information about whether they're eligible and whether funds are available. You can see that 4, which is not bolded, was originally part of the top priorities that we were solving for. But through the process and through the interviews, the group agreed we really shouldn't be solving for the caseworkers, making their jobs easier. What we should be doing is solving for the customer who is struggling to realize those services in a very stressful point in their lives. Next slide, Catherine. So when asked about the process, this is some of the feedback that we received. And this is no joke. So many of the organizations, and I'm sure this is not uncommon, have phone lines, and you literally, they open at 8 and they close at 8:05 in the morning on a Monday morning, and all the appointments are set for the day, which is great if you're one of those people who get through. It's not so great if you're on hold. And the kinds of responses we were getting are things like this. I made 138 calls today. I wasn't able to get through. If people could walk in instead of just call, that would be better. If I could stand in line, I'd feel like I'm making progress. I haven't found anywhere else but here to help me. Here, at least, I'm glad they told me a date and a time for a decision, but I only have until the end of today. Another one was, I've been on the phone since early this morning. Their phones were so busy. I called almost 40 times, different numbers, always busy. Then it would ring and a recorded message would play saying, we're no longer accepting calls. I just have this week and I'm trying not to get put out. And I think that in the context, again, of the situation we're facing today, we're all really sensitive to the number of folks that are struggling not to be evicted, to maintain the ability to pay rent, to pay their mortgage bills as they go forward. Next slide, please. So one of the things we asked them was, what could make this process easier on you? And they said it would if someone would answer the phone and just told us what the situation was, we could have saved some gas and didn't have to drive down to the office. Others said if we could just walk in instead of call, that would be helpful. There was an analogy around knowing where your place is in the line, so knowing whether you're making progress towards assistance or not. A conference call instead of an in-person appointment in the office. Transportation is hard. You can't get help if you can't get there. And is there another way to submit paperwork? So most of the organizations, or at least the community action agencies in Arizona, prior to COVID, had a very manual process. And it really involved getting an appointment, coming into an office, filling out a form, filling out an application. And so as we began to think about how to use technology to solve for some of this, all of this was taken into consideration. COVID just had the impact of kind of supercharging our work. Next slide, please. So some of the high-level takeaways, as you can imagine, ease of use is important. The content on websites degrades quickly. If you look at websites that you go to, you'll probably notice very often the links don't work anymore. Technology doesn't solve ecosystem-level issues, and there's an opportunity to do something nobody else has done. The ecosystem issues we're still working on, and I think that's the challenge and the opportunity as we kind of exit from COVID, or as we think about exiting from COVID, assuming there is an end in sight to this, this issue. But what we heard over and over again was, we need something simple that will allow a dignified way to access information and access services effectively and efficiently. Next slide, please. So there's Mary Lou's contact information. I want to transition now, and I'm going to introduce Shreya Shah. But what I want to say is that as COVID hit, and as the CARES Act funding became available, we Wildfire were contacted by the city of Phoenix to help them spend in excess of $24 million on the program that I mentioned earlier. And we felt that this was a perfect opportunity to begin to design or really develop and implement this technical solution. What we have seen since COVID hit is lots of online forms, people shutting their offices and going to some more remote service delivery processes. We've seen drop boxes and people dropping off documents in offices, which is still happening, more phone calls that are happening, but it's still a very kind of manual process throughout. So we, right before COVID began, got connected to Amazon Web Services and a woman by the name of Mary Sarah Jones, who's been amazing in this process. Mary Sarah introduced us to a company called Prefix, and through the CARES Act money, we received funding from the city of Phoenix to actually begin the building of this solution that we're going to show you. We think it's a game changer. We think we always say, and Shreyas may say this unless I'm stealing his line, throughout the process of thinking about what we could do, we always talked about how you can apply for a mortgage online, but you can't apply for bill assistance. So the overall concept and vision for this solution is that someone can enter a system anywhere they are using whatever technology works for them, including their phone. They can apply for a benefit. They can be determined eligible or ineligible. They can be referred to an agency or move forward in the application process. They can be determined that they will receive a benefit. And the goal is then to facilitate the payment on their account in that same transaction. So they never have to go to an office. They never have to interact with an agency. They never have to interact with a utility unless they choose to, which is always an option. And then ultimately, we're looking at a way to automatically enroll that individual in the utilities discount program as well. And down the line, we have some other sort of goals in mind for how we can deploy this tool from a utility perspective as well, which has not yet been designed because we still have some work to do in that area. But ideally, you don't ever have to leave your home, the library, wherever you choose to do it. So we're very excited about this. It is a tool that can be deployed in other jurisdictions as well. And so I'm now going to stop talking and turn it over to Shreyas so he can actually show you how the tool works and how we're using it today in Arizona. Shreyas?
Thanks, Cynthia. Real quick, can everybody see sort of the screen?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So thank you, Cynthia and Mary Lou and Catherine for the time today. As Cynthia mentioned, we are super excited about bringing Cynthia and Wildfire's vision to life. And so what I thought I would do today is take maybe 5 minutes up front and talk about a little bit about why we're excited about partnering with Wildfire, how we've approached it from a platform perspective to configure our platform to meet the utilities' needs and rental and mortgage assistance really from the Phoenix Cares perspective. And then I'll dig into how we configured specifically that program, just as an example, and then I'll get into the demo relatively quickly. So Prefix, we've been around for better part of 11 years, focused in really sort of the healthcare space. But even in that, we've been focused on three things. One, we've been focused on vulnerable populations. We fundamentally believe that technology has missed an opportunity to help people who really need it and simplify their ability to access help or information. And so as an organization, we are focused on them and their needs and their modes of communication. Two, we are focused on consumer engagement. We want to make sure we are best in class in understanding how to engage these populations, which means, we don't design a platform or a program that is just focused on, here's a web link, go put all your information in, good luck. We put help information in there. We set it up, as you'll see during the demo, where a caseworker at the CAP agency can work in tandem almost in real time with the applicant on their case file. And then finally, as Cynthia mentioned, we are focused on eligibility and adjudication. We do fundamentally believe that the process to get eligible, determine eligibility, can be simplified, and technology can really help there. Whether it's implementing something like OCR technology, which is if you take a picture from your camera phone, reading the text from that picture and then comparing it to the utility document versus the driver's license versus the applicant's information, or integrating in with utility companies directly to understand is a household member part of the customer of record? What is the total amount due? Are any deposits included in that amount? So getting to that adjudication point to be able to make that determination, like Rocket Mortgage in 5 minutes, is what we are doing as a company. So with that, when we looked at sort of the key challenges here, let's see if I can move the screen, there we go. We thought about it from a perspective of the application, of the journey of an application. And so as you can imagine, and as you live every day, it starts with the need for assistance, understanding where to go, and then being able to complete that application. once that application is completed, then we know that it's never as simple as here's information and it's perfect. So we needed to be able to allow a caseworker to review the information, ask clarifying questions, then have the applicant either upload new information, enter new information, whatever the case may be, all the way to the point of approval, and then how can we simplify distribution and assistance. And at a high level, we really looked at two fundamental things. One is from a consumer perspective, how do they most easily deliver a complete and accurate application so that way they can get the assistance as fast as possible? And then from a CAP agency or caseworker perspective, how do we simplify their world so they're not having to remember all the rules and specificity for each specific program that they're trying to get the applicant eligible for, one, and then two, even once they get them eligible, how do they not have to worry and memorize every single beneficiary? So a utility, electric versus gas versus water versus two different electric utility companies, that process to approve the guarantees, how do we simplify that? That way they can deliver the assistance as fast as possible. And so what we've done from a platform perspective is we've configured what we call sort of the front door. And so what that does is it allows consumers, everybody to go in through a single front door. And with that, what we've done is we've set up the eligibility rules for different programs. So once you come in, you may, for example, apply for Phoenix Cares. And if you apply for Phoenix Cares, what we're doing in the background, the system says, well, I see that 6 of the criteria for Phoenix Cares overlap with 6 of the criteria for rental assistance or additional utility assistance or SNAP benefits. And so we know that there's only 6 more questions that need to be asked in addition to determine eligibility for SNAP or another program. And so the system is intelligent enough to say, let me go ahead and get you the help you need right now because you're clearly at a moment of crisis. And once we get through that as fast as possible, how do I intelligently try to minimize anything else I need to ask you, but then still get you eligible for other programs where you might be eligible? And then sort of the last piece of that is, even though today what I'll demonstrate for you is a fully integrated system where the consumer is applying on our platform and the caseworker is adjudicating on our platform, we are architected in a way to distribute that data that we collect to third-party systems. So whether it's to an agency to be able to do scheduling to their system, whether it's for unemployment insurance eligibility to pass to their system that they've already invested in, we are architecting a way to do that seamlessly and very efficiently. So with that, I think what today we'll do is we'll focus on Phoenix Cares, and I'll give a quick example for how we configured this program on our platform, and then I'll actually just demonstrate it for you. So from a program configuration perspective, we really stepped it up into kind of five buckets. The first component is this idea of pre-screening and registering. And there what we want to do is allow a consumer to anonymously evaluate the high-level requirements. So for Phoenix Cares, it was really 3 requirements. Local residency, so they must live in the city of Phoenix, citizenship or legal residence, and they must have been negatively impacted by COVID. Once that's done, we're able to then communicate to them what they may be eligible for and what the next steps are. Then when they start the application process, we broke it out into 2 specific steps, and we did this because of our work in Medicaid and Medicare applications. What we saw was if you can have a consumer or an applicant basically become pre-approved based on the answers they put in, sort of self-attested, if you will, then what you can do is say, here you're pre-approved for this amount or this service or this benefit. Now we're going to ask you for the documentation to complete the application. And what we've seen is that's a 20 to 30% higher completion rate of getting a full application in before a caseworker starts to review it. The second thing on our platform is we have configured the platform by program to be able to say what data or documents can be reused for future applications. So if you imagine somebody applies for Phoenix Cares, they may upload a driver's license, a birth certificate, any utility bill. What we can do on the platform is say, for any other applications on our platform, the driver's license is good for till its expiration date. The birth certificate is good permanently, and utility bill is only good for 30 days. After that, it must be re-uploaded. And so as the applicants come in for future applications, we can reuse and be smart about the data they've given us and minimize their effort for when they need help in the future. Then the last two pieces are adjudication, or last three pieces. Adjudication, you'll see a checklist where they can adjudicate by category. And we have done work where we've automatically done that OCR technology, as I mentioned earlier, where we're looking at the images uploaded or taken by a camera phone for utility bills and driver's licenses and reading the text from them and automatically doing some comparisons to try to take some of that work off the caseworker. And then from a distribution perspective, for Phoenix Cares, we automated guarantees for 2 out of the 4 utilities, the water utility and 1 of the electric. And then finally, if it makes sense, happy to kind of go through the integrated fund management that we have if there's time and the group would like to see that. And so what we've been able to do in the first 8 weeks is we've been able to distribute over 1/3 of all the funds, and about 50% of the applications have had whatever we can automatically guarantee, have those guarantees done. So with that, what I think makes sense, unless there are any sort of major questions or clarifications, I'll jump into the demo. And so from a demo perspective, what I want to do is let's take Jalen Rose. Imagine he has just recently, unfortunately, lost his job at Hobby Lobby. He's married, he has 1 daughter. And as I go through the Phoenix Cares application, we'll just sort of focus on, I'll do 1 electric and the water as what we applied for or what Jalen's applying for. But a couple of things I want to I'll call out as I'm going through the demonstration. One is the ability for the consumer, Jalen, and the CAP agency to work together to get a complete application. 2 is I'll point out how we believe we've eased that process of getting a complete application, both from a document perspective and a data perspective. 3, we'll talk about how the platform has integrated the communications back to the applicant so that when the caseworker needs some more information, they're not having to jump to another tool, they're not having to jump back and forth. All of that is just built in and seamless for them. 5, we'll show kind of the automated guarantees, but then also how that impacts and benefits the applicant from a communication perspective. And like I mentioned earlier, if it makes sense, happy to go through fund management. So with that, let me try to escape out of this. There we go. And let me turn off my video somewhere. And there we go. And I will focus on the screen. So now what you see on this screen is, let me just orient everybody, is on the left around the black box, we're going to mimic a mobile browser. So this is an iPhone. We can mimic anything we want, but I'll just do an iPhone X for simplicity's sake. And the consumer is going to apply here, and anything the consumer does will be sort of in this window. And on the right is what the CAP agencies or a caseworker would be able to do, and what the work that they would need to get done. We'll demonstrate that here. So now let's imagine Jalen comes in, he gets the link. He could be at home after a day of trying to look for a job, might have hit the unemployment agency, comes home, was given a link, goes to the link, and says, okay, let me go ahead and try to start the application process. The platform is multilingual. For Phoenix Cares, we implemented English and Spanish. So Jalen will come in, start the process, and immediately we're going to start to ask him the basic high-level questions. First is, do you live in the city of Phoenix? If he were to answer no, we believe it's important to immediately communicate to Jalen that he's not eligible. We're not going to ask for more information. If we know he's not eligible, we should just stop the process there. We would tell him anything he would need to do, the eligibility requirements. We'd give him the ability to go for more information, whatever the case may be. So let's imagine Jalen does live in Phoenix. He's been negatively impacted. And let's say Jalen is an asylee. Recently came over on an I-94. Then, now that we answered those three questions, we know at a high level he's eligible. So let's understand what he's eligible for. So let's say he receives an APS electric bill, does not receive a gas bill, receives a water bill, and let's say he owns his own residence, but he doesn't have a primary mortgage. He's already paid it off. Then when I click continue, what we're able to do is we're telling Jalen he may be eligible. Because the way the Phoenix Cares program works, we're able to say the dollar amounts for what he might be eligible for. For other types of applications like LIHEAP and other utility assistance, we would not be able to put those dollar amounts in there, but the platform supports both scenarios. We're able to say Jalen's potentially eligible for $600 electric, $300 for water. We're going to contextually just tell Jalen what he needs to provide documentation for. So for utility, we're just going to say electric and water. We're not going to mention gas because we know he doesn't need it. There's no need to confuse him. We're not going to put rental, leases, or anything like that here because he's not eligible for that. But once he goes through this, sees what he needs to bring, he can start the registration process. So now let's imagine Jalen registers. We're able to then register Jalen by either his email or his phone, and then we can allow him to opt out of communication. So we could do either or. In this case, we'll just do email. You'll see we validate that Jalen is not on the platform already. Otherwise, we would have said this name already exists. He can enter just his password he wants here. And because Jalen selected refugee asylee, what we know is that Jalen probably has a relationship with an existing agency. So in this scenario, we're going to give Jalen the ability to pick one. Or if Jalen were to select no preference, then we would run the algorithm that Wildfire gave us for doing a round robin to attribute Jalen to one of the agencies. So in this case, let's say Jalen picks Catholic Charities because he's worked with them before when he came to the country. Clicks finish, and immediately Jalen is logged in and then taken to the application. So now how we've configured the application or this program is we want Jalen to understand that he's releasing information, sign the data consent so he can review it if he wants, check it, say continue, and then he starts the process of the application. So because of the way that Phoenix Cares works, it is one application per household. So we are integrated in with the U.S. Post Office, and so we validate the addresses. And so here I can start typing in my address and say, yep, that's me, 2502 East Michigan Avenue in Phoenix, and I automatically validate that, yes, the U.S. Post Office says that that's a valid address. I've brought over the data from the pre-screener because, once again, we want to minimize the amount of work that the caseworker or the applicant has to do. So because they came straight to the pre-screener, we're going to bring that information only over. Types in the address, says continue. Now we add household members. So Jalen adds his wife, Michelle Rose, and Jalen adds his daughter, Layla Rose. We have the ability here to collect any additional information. So for LIHEAP, for example, we would capture income information for each one of these household members. But for the sake of Phoenix Cares, that wasn't a requirement. So we add just these two members, continue, and now we're just asking about utility information. So here, Jalen doesn't have a gas account. He just has APS. We ask his account number. So let's just do APS. We're able to ask who's the holder of the account. Let's say this is in Michelle's name. And let's say for his water department, that is in his name. We validate both of these have not been applied for. And if we are, or when we do get integrated in with the utilities, we're able to validate these directly to the utility company in real time. Right now, Jalen puts the information in, clicks continue, and then finally, give me a reason for your COVID impact. He says, I lost my job at Hobby Lobby, submits the application, and now what we tell Jalen is he's not maybe eligible, but he's actually pre-approved for these dollar amounts. But now to receive the assistance, he needs to provide additional documentation. So he can start the process here by clicking continue. And now what we do is we start asking for the specific documents that are required from Jalen. So here, Jalen's going to say, okay, I have a termination letter from my employer. Whoops. Then he can go ahead and take a picture with his phone, or he can just go ahead and upload it. So in this case, he's got a picture of his Hobby Lobby letter. So I'm going to go ahead and say open there, and you'll see the miniature appears there. Then he goes next. For identity, we're going to say he has a copy of his driver's license. And now the value of the driver's license for some of the other ones he could do, like Social Security card or a birth certificate, is that we will read the driver's license text from that image. We have that done. So he then takes a picture of his driver's license. Now let's say he goes through and then he says, oh, for legal residency, you know what? I don't have a copy of my I-94, but I remember Catholic Charities kept a copy of it when I worked with them a few years ago. So let's see if they've just got it. I'm going to skip this. And then I'm going to go, okay, I need to validate my electric information. Yep, this all looks good. And now let's say I go ahead and I upload my APS bill. And then let's say when I go next, I go to my water bill, and purely by accident, I also upload my electric bill again. Just it happens, right? Jalen comes in and Jalen goes, great, I'm done. Forgetting that he forgot to upload his citizenship documents. So one of the things the platform will do is it'll be smart about what has been uploaded and what hasn't, and then remind Jalen that he needs to do this. So here Jalen goes, oh, wait a minute, that's right, I forgot that. Well, let me just go ahead and call, but I don't remember the number to Catholic Charities. Well, we have a little help icon here, and if you click it, it's automatically going to show the specific phone number for whatever CAP agency or agency Jalen picked. So here he would call Catholic Charities. And so let's imagine at this point Jalen logs out and he's calling Catholic Charities. So when he calls me, I would then pick up the phone and say, hi, Jalen. Okay, let me go ahead and see and find your application. So I'm over here on the right. I'll go to consumers and I'll say, okay, Jalen, can you give me your date of birth? He says 2/20/1976. So I say, great. And then what I have essentially opened up here is Jalen's case file. So what I'm able to see is any and all applications Jalen has applied for. So in this case, it's just Phoenix Cares, but if LIHEAP was here, there'd be another row here for LIHEAP or another row here for additional rental or global water, like Mary Lou was talking about earlier. I also have access to any documents that Jalen has uploaded, and I can see a history or I can see additional messages that I've done with Jalen. I'm able to start to track all of that information. So in this case, I go into the application and I say, yep, Jalen, I see all the information. I see that you uploaded your COVID identity, your legal residency. Yes, I've got a copy of it. So I see I have a copy of your I-94. I'll just go ahead and scan it and upload that image for you so you don't have to worry about it. And then, Jalen, I know you said you uploaded everything, but I didn't see the water bill come through. Can you go ahead and try that again? He's like, sure, I'll go and do that when I get home. All right? So now the caseworker is finished, uploaded the legal residency documents. When Jalen goes back home the next day, he logs back in, or that evening. He's able to view his applications he's got going. So here, City of Phoenix Cares, he's in a state of document upload. And now when he goes through, he sees everything that was done by the caseworker, sees that he has not, if he wants to change anything, he could, or he could go directly to water and say, yeah, I thought I uploaded that, but looks like it didn't take. Let me go ahead and click that again, do the water bill, and then I can go ahead and submit the application, and I'm done. And so now here, Jalen's basically completed the application, and now the next time the caseworker logs in, what happens is Jalen appears as a new application. I can grab it and start to then work on Jalen's application for approval. So now let me just orient everybody to what you see here on the right. What you see is the different components or categories that need to be verified, so identity, legal residence or citizenship, utility, and COVID impact. Then what you see are two boxes here on the bottom. Application is a list of all the application data that Jalen put in, and identity are all the identity documents that Jalen uploaded. So if I want to say I want to compare identity to all the utility documents, I can come here to the categories, say give me all the utility documents, and I can see here, here's the water bill, here's the electric bill. I can go ahead and compare information really easy. I can zoom in, I can zoom out, and run against all of the checks. So here, the checks for identity are, is it valid after 3/1? Yes, it matches, let's say, the water bill and the electric bill, looks unaltered. Then for legal residency, I know I want to default to the legal residency documents, so the system is smart enough to automatically default there. I validate it all looks correct. Then I go through and I got to validate the electric company. So I go and I look up the electric company and I say, yep, that bill looks good. But then for the water bill, let's say, you know what, this is an old bill. This is from like 3 months ago. I actually want to get a new bill from Jalen before I'm kind of comfortable with this. So I can click more info and say, look, for utility, here's a template for whatever we've configured. And we can say your water bill documentation is 3 months old. Please upload a more recent bill using the link below. I can click request for more info. And what happens is Jalen in his email, so this is a copy of Jalen's email, will automatically be notified that he has missing documents. He'll be given the exact information that the caseworker wanted to communicate. And not only would this be done via email, but if we had Jalen's phone number, this would also be texted to him. And then he could click the link to go ahead and log in. So I'm going to go ahead and click the link. You'll see we'll go ahead and go directly in. Let me mimic the mobile browser again. And you'll see a couple of things. First, we immediately put that information again back up for Jalen so he doesn't have to remember everything. We're trying to simplify it. He can click and go directly to water. And you see there's the water information. Click the image. Let's say take a picture of a more recent bill or upload the image, whatever the case may be. Click submit, and then he's done again. And now, what the caseworker sees, what I see is next time I log in, that Jalen has some new information here. I got a little check mark. Nothing too intrusive, but just something to tell you that, hey, Jalen's got some new stuff. You may want to come look at it. I can click here, pick up exactly where I left off and say, oh, yep, I see the new information. Yes, the new water bill looks good. Great, I'm going to approve that. Click next, validate the COVID impact was correct, and then I can go ahead and approve the application. And now once this is approved, one of the important components here is we've integrated in the visibility and communications directly to the consumer. So now, the next time Jalen were to log in, I can just go home, he will be able to see that the guarantees are pending, but not only that, if he goes into the details of the application, he gets real-time visibility into what's happening here. So the fact that the water account was automatically guaranteed, he sees that it's done. The guarantee is already done. For the electric account, imagine you have to log into a third-party website, and then let's say we wanted to guarantee the documentation. I'm just going to upload a fake social security card here. Upload the documentation, and if I do save it, now the second Jalen logs in again and goes and looks, that's checked off as APS's guarantee is completed. And so the important part here is, even though they're two separate applications, they're tied and connected together to be able to optimize the communication so that Jalen has as much visibility into what's going on in his application as possible, but then hopefully also minimizes the phone calls to the CAP agencies so that if they're calling and want to get a status update, if they can't log in, that's different. Obviously, anybody at the CAP agency could also log in and get them an update. But if they are able to take that work off of the call centers, the CAP agency's plate, they do have this self-service capability. So once they do that, once all the guarantees are complete, we're able to, the caseworker can say, or the agency can say the guarantees are complete, and at that point, there's nothing left for them to do. They've got access to everything that happened, and in real time, we put it in the queue for wildfire to start the reimbursement. And so I'm happy to sort of stop here. I know we're at time. I'm happy to sort of take questions if that makes more sense, or also demonstrate the integrated fund management if that's what that would be most beneficial.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that overview, and to our other presenters. I think we will just look to questions and see if any are coming in. And I don't think we'll have time then to do the other piece of this demo at this time. But I'm sure you'd be available if folks are interested, or connect with Cynthia to learn more.
Absolutely.
So great. One question I had, and Mary Lou, if you're available to help respond, was just curious from your perspective as the executive director of a CAP agency, how has it been with this new application process? What are you hearing from applicants? I assume it's only been out for a short time, but any feedback you have to share?
I really don't. It's in the Phoenix area only. We've had those have called from that area and referred them back. But
oh, okay. So this isn't your service area then. Okay. Okay. Cynthia, could you share a little bit then what you're hearing from the folks in Phoenix on,
Sure.
on the feedback from customers?
Yeah, so the feedback that we're receiving at this moment is largely from the agencies themselves, and it's been very positive. I think there was an opportunity for them to streamline some of the service delivery process that they had in place. And so far they like it. It's simple to use, it's intuitive, and it's saving them time in the application process. So that's all been really very positive.
Great. I was also thinking some about any data privacy concerns. That's something you might hear as CAP agencies are thinking of trying to go online with their processes. Just curious, Cynthia, if you want to share a little bit then on how you might mitigate that.
Yeah, that is a big concern for everyone, I think. I'm going to let Shreya speak to that because they have been implementing the process and have done so with the CMS work and the Medicare, Medicaid work that they've been doing. But it certainly is information that's protected in the system.
Yeah, to Cynthia's point, it's at the top of my mind. If there's one thing that keeps me up at night, it's that. So what we do from a platform perspective, this is a little bit technical, is we encrypt all the data at rest and in transit, and all the data is stored in the United States. It's actually in the Ohio region of AWS, if that matters for anybody. But the other component that we implemented from a process perspective is passwords are never shared. So, and cannot be sort of done, or a caseworker cannot type in a password for a consumer and remind them. A consumer or even a user, a caseworker, have to have a valid email or phone number on the system, and they'll receive a link to be able to get into a password or get into their account. That's a second way we do it. And then a third thing we have is we have two-factor authentication, which can be turned on. So even though you potentially log in through your mobile browser, we do have the ability for clients to choose to say, I also want the consumer to receive a text or an email with a code that they must punch in to get access to their account. So those are some of the things we do. One of the other components that we do is all of the encryptions, as I mentioned before, on the data are signed with a private key that is then essentially thrown away. So even anybody at Prefix Health who had access to the database would not be able to unencrypt the data in the database to be able to read it. So those are a handful of the ways that we protect it, both from a technical perspective and a process perspective.
Thank you, Chris. Looks like we did have a comment here. We've got, looks like a simple process in Ohio. How do we get a full demo viewing? What type of cost is expected to be incurred? And what length of time for install from start to finish do you approximate?
So I can answer some of it, but Cynthia probably also would probably good to get her perspective as a client. I think happy to do another demo so you can do sort of the full set of capabilities. Please reach out to me or to Cynthia, happy to connect. In terms of implementation, I think it depends on the program. So if you were doing a COVID program, I would tell you we'd be in the days and weeks category, because what you see is actually the program that we're running for Phoenix Cares. So all those configurations and all those capabilities are on the platform. If you wanted to implement something that required validation in Ohio to the DMV, then the time frame there would be what's the integration into the DMV. We stood up the Phoenix Cares program in about 8 weeks, and that includes setting up the platform in addition to that program. I think we can turn on a new program, once again, depending on the complexity, anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 weeks feels about right. Cynthia, I'm curious if you want to add your perspective.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think Shreyas has done a good job of sort of articulating how it's worked out here. The contract that we have for the development with Prefix runs through the end of this year. And the only caution I would offer is that the agreement that we have does entail the complete process all the way to the crediting of utility accounts and enrollment and discounts. And some of the time frame can get off track depending on what the utilities access is and sort of participation is. So our goal is to have this in place and fully operational by the end of the year.
Great. Well, a lot of innovation taking place there in Arizona. Thank you so much. We really appreciate getting to hear about a lot of that work. We know even more is taking place. And I think we're at time though, so hope folks can follow up and help, answer any additional questions that they might have. So I do have another slide here I was going to show. Let me just click over to that and then we'll finish out our webinar. So thank you again so much for, I didn't get the title there, but this is additional resources here, but just want to say thank you to our presenters. Really appreciate your time and expertise today. We're honored to be having you here with us today. Just to share a little bit more about our resources that we might have at the National CAP to help you with. We did recently have a webinar training on how to change shutoff and collection policy. So if you're looking to advocate in that space, we'd be happy to share that with you and talk further and helping you get started in that space if you aren't already. Leveraging your WAP, why and how, thinking about the importance of adding to those weatherization dollars. And also recently, those of you in the weatherization space, we have Weatherization Day coming up at the end of the month, the end of October. And we put together a toolkit there to complement NASCAS and related to Energy Awareness Month as well in October. So happy to share that with you. We did recently have a Weatherization Day kickoff webinar with NASCAS and NCAS. So we have that resource for you as you think about ways to have more of a virtual celebration in regard to weatherization. And also to share with you another upcoming webinar we have at the beginning of October, October 6th. We'll be focusing on a low-income solar project in Oregon with the state association there and the work they're doing to bring solar to low-income communities. So if you're interested in those topics, we'd love to follow up with you. And thank you so much again for joining in today. Please reach out if you have any questions and have a great afternoon. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.